We lost the first battle. Then the Marines were unleashed. The sky above Outpost Zenith burned a strange, deep red as the Xylar ships tore through the atmosphere. From the surface, the planet looked quiet, almost peaceful, but that calm was an illusion. Captain Alara Voss stood on the observation deck, her hands gripping the railing so tightly that her knuckles whitened. The hum of the control panels and the distant alarms only added to the tension. She had trained for moments like this her whole life, but nothing could prepare anyone for the roar of alien warships in the sky, moving faster than anything humans had ever seen. "Captain," Lieutenant Rin called from behind her, his face pale. "The outer defenses are failing. They're breaking through the perimeter." Alara didn't turn. Her eyes stayed on the battle outside. She could see the first Xylar strike teams landing, tall figures in dark armor moving with impossible speed. The humans at the perimeter tried to fight, but their weapons seemed weak, almost childish compared to the alien technology. Lasers scorched the ground, and explosions sent dust and rock flying in every direction. Outpost Zenith was under siege, and humanity was losing. "Rin, give the order to fall back to the inner compounds," Alara said, her voice steady even though her heart was racing. "We can't stop them out there, not now." "But what about the civilians?" Rin asked, fear creeping into his voice. "They're our priority," she replied. "Keep them safe, that's what matters." As they moved through the corridors, the walls shook with every explosion. People ran in panic, carrying what little supplies they could salvage. Families huddled together, trying to stay calm, but the fear in the air was thick and heavy. Alara's team helped guide them to the inner compounds, using whatever barricades they could. It was chaos, but in that chaos, Alara saw the human spirit at its strongest. People were scared, yes, but they were fighting for their survival and for each other. Down in the command center, screens flickered with images from the battlefield. Military advisors shouted over one another, trying to find a solution. The Xylar had the advantage in every way: speed, weapons, numbers. Every plan the humans tried failed before it even started. "This is worse than predicted," said General Harper, the highest-ranking officer at Zenith. His face was pale, his usual calm replaced by tension. "They've studied us. They know our moves before we make them." Alara stepped forward. "Then we fight smarter," she said, "not harder. We use the environment, set traps, hit them where they least expect it. Every second we can hold them buys Earth time." Harper looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "You're right, Captain, but remember, this is just a delay. We cannot win this battle alone." Outside, the sound of explosions grew louder. One of the outer walls was breached. Alara watched as a Xylar squad entered, their movements precise and deadly. Human soldiers fought back, but the aliens were stronger and faster. The soldiers fell one by one, and the wall of fire and smoke marked the point of defeat. Alara turned to Rin. "Prepare the evacuation pods. Everyone who can't fight must leave now." Rin nodded, his hands shaking slightly. "Yes, ma'am." In the distance, the first evacuation pods launched into the sky. Families and soldiers alike were carried away, leaving Zenith vulnerable. Alara knew that many would not make it, and that knowledge weighed on her like a heavy stone, but she pushed it down. She had a job to do, and letting fear control her would only make things worse. The battle raged on, but something inside Alara refused to give in. She and her team moved through the inner corridors, taking up defensive positions. Their weapons were nothing compared to the Xylar, but they had something the aliens did not: human creativity. Every corner, every hallway, every ventilation shaft could be used to their advantage. "Captain, we've got a situation on the East Wing," Rin reported. "A squad of Xylar is heading straight for the civilian shelters." Alara clenched her jaw. "Then we stopped them." They moved quickly, setting up barricades and ambush points. Explosions echoed down the hallways as humans and aliens clashed. Alara felt the adrenaline surge through her body. Every strike, every decision mattered. She could not afford mistakes. In one room, a young soldier froze, too scared to act. Alara grabbed his shoulder and looked him in the eyes. "We fight or we die. Do you want to die?" The soldier shook his head violently. "No, ma'am." "Then fight," Alara shouted. The soldier raised his weapon, and together they pushed back the Xylar squad. It was a small victory, but victories were rare here. Hours passed like minutes, and the tide of battle never seemed to turn. The Xylar continued to advance, relentless and unfeeling. Humans fell one after another, but still they fought. Alara noticed something important. Even in the face of impossible odds, humans refused to surrender. They improvised, they adapted, and they never stopped trying. Finally, a warning came through the communication system. Earth Command had sent an urgent message. Alara Voss, the message began. We've assessed the situation. Outpost Zenith cannot hold. Evacuation is mandatory. All surviving personnel must retreat. Reinforcements are on the way, but they will not arrive in time to save the outpost. Alara's hands tightened on the railing. She had expected this, but hearing it confirmed still stung. Zenith was lost. They had failed the first battle, and yet she could not let despair take over. Rin, she said, her voice calm but firm, coordinate with the remaining squads, get everyone to the extraction points. We leave nothing behind unless it's necessary to slow the enemy. As the evacuation began, the sky above Zenith glowed with the fire of burning buildings and exploding vehicles. Smoke and ash filled the air, creating a strange, almost surreal scene. It was a battle lost, yes, but in every human who survived, a spark remained. The spark of defiance, of determination, of refusal to be conquered. Alara took one last look at the outer walls of Zenith, now smoldering ruins. Her heart ached for the lives lost, for the sacrifices made, for the families who would never return home. But she also knew something important. Humanity never truly surrendered. Even in defeat, they learned. They adapted, and soon they would strike back. Captain, Rin said, breaking her reverie, the last group is ready to leave. Alara nodded. Good, let's go. As they boarded the evacuation pod, Alara allowed herself a brief moment to look out at the battlefield. She saw the Xylar advance, confident, certain of their victory. But she also saw the humans fighting, even as the odds crushed them. And in that fight she felt hope, because humans had something the Xylar did not understand, something that could never be measured or counted: courage, ingenuity, a will that refused to break. And while Zenith may have fallen today, humanity would rise again. The pod lifted off, leaving the burning outpost behind. Alara watched as the red sky faded, replaced by the darkness of space. She clenched her fists and whispered to herself, a promise more than a statement. We lost the first battle, but the war is not over, not by a long shot. The evacuation pod streaked through space, leaving the burning outpost Zenith far behind. Captain Alara Voss watched the planet fade into the distance, her eyes reflecting both sorrow and determination. Humanity had lost the first battle, but they were not beaten. Far away in orbit around Mars, a new hope was being prepared, a hope that the Xylar could not imagine. High above the red deserts and frozen plains of the planet, the massive training stations glimmered under the sun. These were not ordinary military bases. They were where the Marines were forged, humans enhanced through technology, genetics, and relentless training. Earth Command had kept their existence secret, even from most soldiers like Alara, because the Xylar needed to believe that humanity's losses meant weakness. They were wrong. Sergeant Kyan Drake walked through the training corridors, his boots clicking against the metal floor. Around him, recruits pushed their bodies to the limit. Some ran obstacle courses designed to simulate alien environments. Others practiced hand-to-hand combat with advanced combat drones. Every sound in the facility, the clatter of weapons, the hum of training machines, the sharp commands of instructors, spoke of a single truth. These Marines were humanity's hidden edge. Kyan was different from the others. He had already been through multiple combat simulations against the most advanced AI opponents, and his reputation was unmatched. Calm under pressure, quick to adapt, and fearless, he embodied what humans could become when pushed to their limits. Yet he carried a burden too, the knowledge that real lives depended on his skill. Failure was not an option. In the central command room, a holographic map of Zenith and the surrounding sectors displayed flashing red dots, the Xylar forces still advancing across the planet. General Harper's face appeared on the projection, grave but determined. "Marines," he began, his voice firm, "you are about to enter a war that will test everything you know about courage, teamwork, and endurance. Outpost Zenith fell, but we will not let humanity be defeated. You are our edge, you are our answer." Kyan stepped forward, his squad standing at attention behind him. "Sir," he said, "we understand. We'll make every move count. Zenith will not be forgotten." Harper nodded. "Good, training is over. Deployment begins within the hour. Remember, the Xylar have speed, power, and numbers. What they do not have is human ingenuity. Use it." Hours later, the Marines boarded their sleek black transport ships. The pods were small but heavily armored, designed to pierce enemy defenses and deploy their passengers precisely where they were needed. Kyan's team was silent, each soldier focused on the task ahead. Some were enhanced with cybernetic implants to increase strength or reflexes, others carried weapons capable of incredible precision. But all shared one thing, a will that refused to break. Back on Zenith, the remnants of human forces struggled to hold defensive positions. Captain Alara moved among them, giving orders, checking supplies, and keeping morale high. The humans were exhausted, their losses heavy, but every face reflected determination. They might have lost the first battle, but they were alive, and survival gave them a chance. A communication alert flashed. Alara answered, "Voss here." "Kyan Drake," a calm voice said. "We're approaching Zenith. Marines are en route to assist you. Hold your positions." Alara's heart lifted. Relief and hope surged through her. "Copy that, Drake." "We've held as best we can. Be ready. We've been under heavy pressure." "Understood. We'll make a difference." In orbit, the Marines prepared for deployment. Kyan went over the plan with his squad one last time. "We land at the eastern sector near the civilian shelters," he said, pointing at the holographic map. "The Xyler won't expect a coordinated strike from us. Keep moving, stay adaptable, and protect the civilians. Every move we make counts. Zenith's survival and humanity's depends on it." The squad nodded in silent agreement. They had trained for this moment, imagined it countless times, but now it was real. The drop began. The transport pods descended through Zenith's atmosphere, shaking violently as the Xyler defenses targeted them. Lasers struck the hulls, but the Marines' shields held. Kyan's team broke through the cloud of fire and smoke, landing in a crater near the shelters. The ground trembled beneath them. "What do you see?" Kyan asked, surveying the area. "Xyler squads advancing," replied Corporal Tessa Reed, scanning with her tactical visor. "They're moving fast but scattered." Kyan smiled slightly. "Good, then we hit them smart, not hard." The first strike was precise. Using the debris and ruined structures, the Marines set traps and lured the Xyler into ambushes. Humans who had been trapped in shelters watched in awe as these soldiers seemed to appear from nowhere, striking and disappearing like shadows. The Xyler, confident from their earlier victory, were taken by surprise. Their advanced technology could not predict human creativity. Alara joined the effort, coordinating with the Marines through comms. "Kyan, East Corridor, multiple Xyler units. We need them diverted." "Can you handle it?" "On it," he replied. Within minutes, Kyan and his team had split into smaller units, guiding the aliens into traps, cutting off reinforcements, and protecting civilians. Every move was precise, every strike calculated. Humans fought back, using tools and weapons they had improvised in the first battle. Together with the Marines, they began to turn the tide, holding ground they could never have defended alone. Amid the fighting, moments of humanity shone through. A young Marine carried a small child out of danger, dodging fire and debris. A scientist worked feverishly to create a makeshift shield generator from salvaged materials. Captain Alara herself led a group of soldiers through a collapsed tunnel to rescue trapped civilians. Each act was small but vital. Each showed the power of human determination. Kyan noticed something unexpected. The Xyler began hesitating. They were unsure, confused, even fearful. They had faced humans before, but never like this. The Marines moved with intelligence and coordination that seemed almost unnatural. The aliens were learning that humans could adapt faster than they could predict. "Captain Voss," Kyan said through comms, "we're gaining ground. Keep your people moving forward." "They need to see that help has arrived." Alara's voice was calm but filled with energy. "Understood. Let's make every second count." By nightfall, the eastern sector was partially secured. Fires still burned and debris littered the streets, but civilians were safe for the first time since the attack began. The Xyler had been pushed back, at least temporarily, and humanity had shown it would not simply surrender. Kyan looked at his team, sweat and grime covering their faces. "Good work," he said. "This is only the beginning, but today we've made a difference. Remember Zenith. Remember why we fight. The Xyler will not take our planet without a fight." Alara joined him outside the shelters, her eyes scanning the horizon. The devastation was immense, but she could see hope in the faces of the people around her. "You've changed the course of this battle," she said. "If the Xyler thought humanity was weak, they've learned their first mistake." Kyan nodded. "And they'll make more. We're just getting started." As the sun set over Zenith, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple. The humans, exhausted, battered, but alive, looked to the future with renewed determination. The first battle had been lost, but the arrival of the Marines had reminded everyone of a truth that could not be measured by weapons or numbers. Humans never give up. They adapt, they fight, and when pushed to the edge, they rise stronger than ever. Far above in the orbiting stations, General Harper watched the situation unfold. A small smile touched his lips. Humanity had survived. Humanity had adapted. And now, with the Marines unleashed, the Xylar would see what humans were truly capable of. The war was far from over. But for the first time since Zenith fell, there was hope. And hope, Kyan knew, was the most dangerous weapon of all. The morning sun rose over Zenith, cutting through the lingering smoke from the previous day's battle. The streets were still scarred with craters and rubble, and the fires burned low, casting orange shadows on the broken walls. Captain Alara Voss walked alongside Sergeant Kyan Drake as the remaining human soldiers and civilians prepared to move deeper into the city. The first victory had been small but meaningful, and now it was time to take the fight to the Xylar. "Do you think they'll push back?" Alara asked quietly, glancing at the horizon. Kyan shook his head. "They won't expect humans to strike again so quickly. They think we're weak, disorganized. That's their mistake. We fight smart, not just hard, and today we turn the tide." Around them, Marines and human soldiers coordinated their movements. Every squad had a specific role. Some cleared streets of Xylar forces, others secured civilian zones, while engineers set up defensive devices and traps for the inevitable counterattacks. The humans were learning quickly, adapting to alien strategies and using the terrain to their advantage. Even in the face of a superior enemy, their ingenuity was remarkable. "Captain," Corporal Tessa Reed said, pointing to a cluster of buildings on the edge of the city, "Xylar forces are regrouping there. Looks like they're planning an attack on the central command area." Alara studied the position. "Then we hit them first." "Kyan, can your squad handle it?" "We've trained for this," Kyan replied calmly. "We'll take them by surprise and force them to retreat. Humans work best when they're unexpected." The squad moved with precision, slipping through shadows, moving silently between rubble-strewn streets. Kyan admired how humans had adapted. Civilians helped where they could, guiding soldiers through hidden passages, and even the young recruits demonstrated courage beyond their years. This was the strength that the Xylar had not accounted for, people who refused to be merely numbers on a battlefield. The first encounter came suddenly. A Xylar patrol emerged from the shadows, weapons raised, eyes glowing with eerie light. Kyan raised his hand, signaling his squad. Within seconds, humans struck from every direction. The aliens, confident in their technology and strength, were caught off guard. The Marines used their environment perfectly, throwing debris, collapsing walls, and using specialized weapons that stunned rather than destroyed. The patrol was defeated before it could call for reinforcements. Alara observed from a nearby vantage point, her heart swelling with pride. "They adapt fast," she muttered. "Even better than we trained them to." Kyan's voice crackled through comms. "Captain, we've cleared the patrol, but there's more. The central Xylar unit is fortified, and they have civilians trapped inside." Alara's jaw tightened. "Then we don't wait, we go now." The humans advanced, moving as one. Engineers set up energy barriers to block reinforcements, while snipers positioned themselves on rooftops. Civilians, guided by volunteers, were ushered to safety. Kyan led the strike team straight into the heart of the Xylar defenses. Inside the central building, the Xylar were surprised. They had expected a slow, scattered human resistance, not coordinated attacks from elite Marines and motivated survivors. Kyan's squad moved with precision, disabling key devices, forcing the aliens into defensive positions, and creating openings for civilians to escape. One young Marine, barely older than 16, carried an injured child through a hallway filled with falling debris. Another engineer improvised a shield generator from scavenged parts, blocking enemy fire long enough for their team to advance. Every human action, small or large, was decisive. Every act of bravery made the difference. Alara joined Kyan inside the building, coordinating the rescue of civilians. "Move quickly," she shouted over the din of explosions and energy blasts. "Every second counts." Kyan noticed something remarkable. Even when facing death, humans never froze. Their fear was real, but it didn't paralyze them. Instead, it fueled them. Humans improvised, adapted, and continued to fight, even when the odds were overwhelming. The Xylar had underestimated the human spirit, and now it was showing itself in full force. The battle intensified. Xylar reinforcements arrived from the upper floors, but the humans were ready. Kyan's squad set traps, using gravity fields, debris, and improvised devices to funnel the enemy into kill zones. The aliens fell one by one, stunned not by raw power but by human creativity. Captain Alara moved alongside the soldiers, rescuing those who had been trapped or wounded. She saw the courage in every face, the civilians who refused to panic, the soldiers who fought beyond exhaustion, and the Marines who executed their plans flawlessly. Humans, she realized, had a weapon the Xylar could never match: determination and teamwork. Hours passed, and slowly the tide began to turn. The central Xylar unit, once confident, was now in disarray. Their communications were disrupted, their reinforcements blocked, and their morale shaken. Kyan led the final push, using a combination of strategy and courage to defeat the last of the enemy forces in the building. Civilians were rescued, and the humans held the position. Outside, the battle raged on, but everywhere humans were present, the Xylar hesitated. They had seen the Marines in action, witnessed humans fighting with creativity and fearlessness, and they began to fear the very species they had thought weak. Alara and Kyan stood on the rooftop of the central building, surveying the streets below. Humans moved with confidence now, guiding civilians, repairing defenses, and preparing for the inevitable counterattack. Kyan smiled, a rare expression of relief and pride. "We've done more than survive today," he said. "We've shown them that humans don't give up. We fight back, we adapt, we protect our own. That's something no Xylar can ever understand." Alara nodded. "And this is just the beginning. Today, we learned something important. Humanity is strongest when we work together. We've turned the first battle into a lesson they will never forget." As night fell over Zenith, the city held a strange calm. Fires still burned, but humans were no longer hiding. They moved with purpose, repairing defenses, rescuing the wounded, and preparing for what came next. Marines trained civilians to fight, soldiers taught each other new strategies, and every human action sent a clear message to the Xylar. They were not weak, they were not alone, and they would not surrender. Kyan gathered his squad for a final briefing. "Rest now if you can, but stay ready," he said. "The Xylar will strike back, and when they do, we'll be ready. Zenith is just the start. Humans will show them what it means to fight for survival." Alara watched him, knowing he was right. The humans had adapted to the first battle, and now, with the Marines unleashed, the balance of power was shifting. Every act of bravery, every clever plan, every life saved, it all mattered. The first battle had been lost, but humanity had already won something far more important: the knowledge that they could fight back. The night grew quiet, but the humans were awake, vigilant, and ready. Zenith had survived another day, and with the Marines leading the charge, hope burned brighter than ever. High above the city, satellites and drones monitored the situation. General Harper's face appeared on a secure channel. "Alara, Kyan," he said, his voice firm but full of pride. "Today, humanity proved something important. You've turned a defeat into a victory in spirit. The Xylar will learn to fear us not just for our weapons, but for our courage and will to survive. Keep this up." "We have much to do, but you've taken the first step." Kyan and Alara exchanged a look. There was pride in their eyes, yes, but also a heavy weight of responsibility. This victory was just the beginning, and every human on Zenith knew it. The war was far from over. But for the first time, humans believed they could win. In the streets below, civilians whispered stories of the Marines' bravery. Children pointed at the soldiers with wide eyes, and families clutched each other, smiling through exhaustion. Hope had returned, fragile but strong, and humanity's heart beat louder than any weapon the Xylar could bring. And somewhere in the shadows, the Xylar commanders observed, confusion and frustration etched into their alien features. They had underestimated humans once. They would not make that mistake again. But the humans had learned something too. They were stronger than anyone had predicted, and the fight for Zenith was only the start of a war that would test the limits of courage, strategy, and determination. As dawn broke over the battered city, Captain Alara Voss looked out across Zenith. The city was scarred, the people tired, but the human spirit burned brighter than ever. With the Marines at their side, humanity had learned to fight back, to adapt, and to never surrender. And in that moment, she knew something powerful. The humans had survived the second day, and the next battle would belong to them.